You ready to get rolling?
Do you want to start this thing?
Let's do it.
All right.
Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, promotional products and design. They cover your brand bumper to bumper with graphic design, promo products, and print. See what Dire Oil Graphics can build for you at direoil.com. That's DYEROIL.com.
Welcome to Beers with Nigel. I'm Nigel. It's a show
I'm
about
that other guy.
It's the other guy. It's a show about beer and other stuff.
Or things.
And we're on the road. We're back on Johnston Drive. We're in Shawnee again.
We're back in Old Shawnee.
So Nick doesn't really travel out of the state of Missouri. So welcome back to Kansas, Nick.
Nick doesn't drive a whole lot. So my problem with our road shows isn't that I have to go places. It's that I don't have a driver to go places.
Oh, God. He needs a driver. Well,
look, peak laziness is my goal in life.
Well, we're at Transport Brewing. We were supposed to do this a few weeks ago, but we had to reschedule. So in the house, we've got Jason and Sean. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
I love how Sean's holding the mic, but he's about to bust a rhyme. He's got
full MC handle going there. He's ready.
I am the most un-MC person you could ever meet.
Well, since you're holding it like that, tell people who you are, Sean.
Yeah, so my name's Sean Greenwood, and I'm originally from England, but I've lived in the US 15 years or so. Spent 10 years in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then just coming up to 6 years here in Kansas City.
And then now it's your turn.
Jason Leib, one of the co-founders and owners here at Transport Brewery, an occasional brewer. So this is partner Mike and I's origination project, and it's expanded to include a few other owners, some ownership that's come and gone over the years as well too. But glad to have Sean on board now as well.
Aren't we all?
I like the I'm an occasional brewer.
It's like us.
There's a lot of paperwork and forms and last
heavy
year,
lifting.
A lot of grants and payroll protection program taxes and forms that I get to do. So occasionally brew.
By the way, I would choose brewing over all those other things.
Yeah.
after your first, he just had his first brew day.
Even
ever.
after my first brew day, I'm still choosing that over tax forms and bookkeeping.
Fair. I mean, you did a good job. You didn't hurt anybody. Only one piece fell off of the brew system.
The beer hasn't been released yet, so I don't know if we can say I haven't hurt anybody.
What did you brew?
We did. It's an oatmeal stout with cranberry and cinnamon.
Oh.
With our buddy Nolan at Transparent Brewing.
Yeah.
Release. Here you go, guys. Release party Wednesday, November 24th.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Holy
moly.
That's coming right up.
It is. I think it's going to be a good beer.
A week from today.
Yeah. Speaking of beer, we have to acknowledge
Junior.
One of our listeners. If we don't tell him what we're drinking, he comes after us. So, Junior, we're drinking the collab between Vine Street and Transport. What's it called?
So Transporting Vines.
See, let's do it there. Black
reached.
IPA. And what are you drinking, sir?
It's a black lager, not IPA.
Oh, my bad. Black lager. Edit that out.
We don't edit.
You could probably call it the either. It's so it was their recipe that they brought and brewed here, and it's pretty hoppy. So I can see where if you've tried it, you can get that sense of it being a black IPA.
It's a really good beer.
It's a really
I think
good
it turned
beer.
out very well.
And I'm drinking our Prost Kolsch. We just freshest beer we've got. Just got kegged out by Sean yesterday.
Nice.
Yep.
So.
And
Sean?
I'm drinking a red IPA, so a West Coast style IPA.
Nice.
There you go, Junior. There's your beer report.
There you go. Let's start with this, gentlemen. Everybody has a beer story, right? Everybody remembers that one beer that before we were craft nerds that we were drinking. What do you remember, Jason, was the first thing that turned you on to craft beer, and what were you drinking before that?
Well, immediately before, I think I had elevated to like Rolling Rock or something. But there was a lot of Natty Light and Busch Light in the early Bud Light in the early days,
college
right?
days and shit, right?
But the beer, and I remember having Honey Brown
Oh yeah.
For the first time at a concert in Lawrence at the Granada.
Yeah.
And having like 6 or 7 of those, and thought, wow, this has got some flavor to it. It's interesting. It's like it seems really thick at the time.
Right. That was thick back then.
Right.
Wasn't it?
But yeah, it wouldn't now. But that's the one I remember.
Yeah, that's a good beer. Sean, how about you, bud? Obviously, you probably have a whole different story. Growing up in England.
Yeah. So coming from England when I was
5.
young in England, there wasn't probably much American craft beer at that point. So it was all, traditional English bitters and milds and cask beer sort of thing. So I went to a school near Scotland, and we used to drink Younger's Number 3. It was a Scotch 80 shilling ale, and that got me into cask beer. And then when we came to live in Kalamazoo, we went down to the Bell's Eccentric Cafe because we worked right downtown there. And I'm like, what the hell is all this beer? So I'm like, there's a lot of American style craft beer in the UK now, but at that point it hadn't really broken back over the Atlantic. So this is the first time I'd really had super hoppy beers and just more wacky flavors.
How many years ago was that?
15
or
so.
So that was. I mean, it wasn't shit here.
Yeah.
At Kalamazoo was probably, it's
so
kind of a beer capital.
Two Hearted and Oberon and things like that were what I got into. Yeah. And Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, actually. We used to go to bars and it was, there's a pale ale that sounds sort of English, and tried it and loved it as well.
Is that kind of a shock to the system, though, a little bit? Like, you hadn't seen beers like that. You hadn't tasted them.
No. I mean, we just couldn't get them, And companies like Brewdog have really pushed it forward in the UK now.
Right.
And in fact, a lot of the traditional cask beer breweries are making American-style beers in cask now.
Yeah.
As well as still doing the traditional bitters and things. So it's interesting how it's gone full circle because, Sierra Nevada and Anchor and these guys, they were all influenced by the English beers originally. Yeah. And now it's influencing the English breweries.
Yeah, it was interesting when last time I went to London to see cask style, like an IPA and a sour and all these. I'm like, hold on now. It was kind of a mind fuck, right? I was like, I'm going to try them because I've never seen this. It was super weird. Every American style they had, it was at this place in Brixton.
Yep.
And every style, I'm like, well, give me the flight, So it's pretty interesting. So
do flights cross the Atlantic? I mean, is that still a thing?
Yeah, still. Yeah.
You just never know. You got to ask this question.
I'd never seen or even heard of the word flight to do with beer when I came here. It's like you didn't even ask people for a taster, like a free taster, like you get here. You just go for it with a half pint, and if you didn't like it, you just chug it anyway.
And you moved on.
I kind of feel like that's a better way to do it, though. You really need to commit. You got to go in. You can try new beer. Let's give the commit.
Half pint's not that much. You
can
finish
fine.
a half pint.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
We have bigger pints, though.
And is the
that's true. We had imperial pints. So yeah.
Our math is different.
So, Jason, let's talk about the birth of Transport. Tell us who was where this. I know some of you guys were homebrewers.
Yep.
At what point? How did that all start? Kind of give us the story.
Yeah. So probably 11 years ago now when I started homebrewing, and then about a year after that, my partner here, Mike, said, hey, I've got some other friends. They were interested in doing some homebrewing, and do you want to get together with us and we'll do it as a group? And as you first start, you're realizing it's a lot of work and a lot of cleaning, and I thought, hey, splitting up this tasks, that sounds great, right? So we started with a couple of turkey fryers, doing basically 2 5-gallon batches, but there were 7 of us. Then we realized the problem there is now we're not getting very much beer out of it.
Right.
So we all decided, okay, for the next 6 months, everybody throws in $50 a month and we'll buy a bigger system, right? So we ended up with a 30-gallon kettle, and we started doing that, and we ended up with a chilled fermenter, a small conical, and now all of a sudden we're basically a nano brewery now, and well, is anybody interested in doing a brewery? And everyone said yes, right? Everyone's interested at that point.
Hey, it only costs you
$15,000.
And at that time, it was only Red Crow, and Brew Lab was just starting to get into it, right? And so, well, okay, there's 550,000 people in Johnson County, and there's no breweries here. They're all in Missouri, so there's certainly opportunity. Let's look at doing it. And so we just sort of did that natural progression, and then by the time we were ready to do it, of the 7 people, only Mike and I remained as still being interested. When it came time to start putting money into it, I think that's when things changed.
I mean, $50 is fine.
Yeah.
when
you start
you
adding zeros to that. Yeah.
Like, hold on now. You want me to do
changes
what?
the equation. And so, we just started looking for spaces and building out, the homebrew recipes that had done well in metals and, those, and where do we want to expand to on that side of things. And I think we spent, 2.5 years looking for a location. We had contracts on multiple buildings that didn't work out, one being kind of across the street here. And I basically, at almost 3 years, I called Mike and I said, this isn't going to work out. We've been going at this a long time. I think we just let it go. And it's like, okay. And like the next week he called and said, hey, across the street from that last place we had, there's a building with a for sale or lease sign on it. You should go take a look. And then drove by and looked at this place, and it was a mess. But we came in and saw, this outside wall that was on the inside of the building. And said, well, that's really cool. There's some possibilities here. So we started pursuing it, and another 16 months later, we finally got the doors open.
I love this space.
No, it's
so cool.
Yeah, the first time I came, I came the first weekend you guys were open, and I was telling this story to a guy yesterday. I'm like, every brewery has its own vibe and its own unique thing, and this is just one of those. I mean, this is different than down the street at Service. It's different from up the street at wherever. It's a great use of the space. I mean, I like it. It kind of reminds me of some little town in England. You walk into a pub and it's like, oh yeah, this building's old as shit.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I say to people. It to me actually feels like an English pub where a lot of places just feel like a bar.
Right.
And obviously, if you've never been to an English pub, you wouldn't really understand what that means. But to me, I think we've captured that really well.
Oh, I think so too.
I like that it's kind of, you're on this side of the rock wall. I'm gonna use visuals here for audio medium, so great hosting by me. But I like that the two rooms are really different. And this is a different feel sitting where we are on the outside of the rock wall.
For sure, yeah. So one of the limitations of being in the middle of a historic city block is there is no outdoor space around here, right? There is no outside. I mean, a very limited out in the front. We've managed to add some space out there, but this, I mean, as you look at it, and again, going back to visuals on an audio format, but this was the exterior of that building. That's the exterior of the building next door. This literally used to be an alley. And at some point, apparently in the 50s, they threw the wood up here and put a roof on and said, guess what? We have another space to lease out here.
But this is like you've got a patio. You've got the garage door on it, too. You're perfect.
So we thought, okay, well, let's take the front of the building off. We'll put a garage door on. It's concrete floor. This will be our semi-outdoor patio-type space.
So, Sean, at what point did you hook up with these guys? How'd that happen?
So I've been homebrewing for about probably 12 years or so. And then when we moved here, I didn't know anybody. Obviously, we moved here, and I wasn't working at the time. I'd managed to get a layoff from my previous job and some money that would see me through. We moved here because my wife got a job here. And so I'm at home brewing and just making beer and really just hanging out. And one day I drove past here, and there's a sign outside saying, coming soon, Transport Brewery. And I'm like, shit, there's a brewery? Wow. And so I went online and I did some Googling around, and I found an article in one of the local news websites or something about this, and they said, these guys are from the Johnson County Brewing Society. And I'm like, there's a brewing society? Who knew? And so I figured out where that was, and I went to a couple of meetings and met some of the guys. So I met, Mike was down there, and the head brewer at the time, Tim, was also there. And I got talking to everyone. I said, I've got the ability to make cask beer at home. I've got pins. I've got a beer engine, all this stuff. Yeah. If you ever want to borrow all of that stuff, let me know, and we'll do it. And so
you're like, yes,
please.
Yes, please.
And so for their first anniversary, Tim got in touch with me and said, hey, do you want to do a collaboration? You can design an ESB recipe.
Yeah.
and we'll put it on cask and keg as well, and we'll do that as part of the celebration. And so I came down and helped brew, and that's how we got to know each other.
So obviously they had had your beer before.
Yeah.
They didn't just say to brew a beer and bring it to the brewery.
And so, I wasn't part of the ownership or the brewing process at that point, but that's how I got to know the guys.
Yeah.
And then as time went by, Tim left, and we were short-staffed, and I said, well, if you want help in the back, I don't mind coming and helping brew.
Right.
And Mike said, well, we already have a couple paid brewers. We can't afford a third paid brewer. But if you want to be in the ownership team, we don't need to actually pay you. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to pay you to come and brew?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, basically. So that actually sounds like a decent idea for a hobby, and that's how I came on board. So
Nice. That's the one thing I do like about all the homebrew groups around town. I mean, that's how I got into it. I'm in ZZ Hops, and there's always a friendly camaraderie at the competitions. But you get to learn. Everybody who's opened a brewery in the last 5 years, they're all homebrewers. There's a few that nobody knew, but probably 90% of the breweries around, everybody knew each other in the rookie days. Rookie days. I don't know, non-professional days.
Amateur status.
The amateur status.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But there were always certain people that you'd go to Blarney Brew Off or Parkville, and you would search out those homebrewers. I remember when you guys were there, because you guys I feel like you guys had like 7 or 8 people that would show up with like 6 or 7 beers, man. I'm like, who are these dudes? And now it's even bigger. Think about the last Parkville. All the homebrew clubs probably had 5 or 6 beers at least.
at least.
It was craziness.
I think the beer meisters had probably a dozen.
Yeah.
And they were switching out kegs because they didn't have enough tap lines. It was like crazy.
I loved it though. That's the beauty of craft beer.
And then watching them all everybody work together now too. It's like you ever need help, you want or an idea, bounce something off somebody, they're all there.
Oh yeah.
We've talked to some people on this podcast, and it's not this way in every city. Apparently, there's some competition between the homebrew groups, and I'm like, well, what's the point of that? We're all making beer to drink beer and to sell beer, right? Isn't that the point? So, and Nick's got to have beer.
Always.
Speaking of beer,
I think it's Mr. Beer
it's time. So this is the mystery beer bag. This is the thing we do. This bag came from a golf course, as you might imagine. For those who can't see it, there's golf clubs on it. The person who took the bag hasn't told me the real story. And I don't want him to tell me the story until he comes on the show. But
so the mystery is where the bag came from, or how the bag got acquired.
And the beers that are in there.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Nick has no idea what I'm going to bring. So
Gotcha.
We didn't mention the rules of the podcast. If you need to burp, please burp into the mic.
Okay.
Lean in.
If you happen to cuss, it's fine. The only child who listens to the show is his kid. So
This is true.
There's that.
But we don't care. You can say whatever fucking word you want.
I'm gonna hand you the first one.
Okay.
I'll let you pour it. We have a little game that we do, so you get to look at the ABV.
But don't tell us.
Don't tell us.
Okay.
You tell us everything else about
We're
the
gonna
beer.
crack it, open it, take a taste of it. We're gonna see how well versed we are on ABVs.
Okay.
But you can just tell us what the beer is. You can definitely do that.
So this is Blueberry Love Muffin.
Oh, my God.
That's Nick's nickname.
Let's see. So
By the way, my third year of
Barntown.
college, I heard that name a lot.
So all right, I'll set down the mic here and we'll get some beers.
Yeah,
out.
go for it. Don't be afraid, Sean. Sean's looking at that can like,
I'm not a big adjunct beer guy. It's like...
fair.
That's all right.
But
Part of the show is just
we won't kill you.
look. That's rule number 2. Don't die.
That is rule number 2. What style?
Wait,
did you
that's
say
rule
was?
number 1. I got our rules wrong.
You got a rule that?
I got our rules wrong. Rule number 1 is don't die.
Yes. Oh, pastry sour. Gotcha.
Pastry sour. That's ticking all my boxes.
You're like yum yum.
That's another college nickname for somebody.
It smells sour and pastry-like. What's the brewery again?
This is Barntown in West Des Moines.
You're gonna have to turn your mic back on, man. Try talking.
So yeah, we got it.
Where are we?
Barntown, West Des Moines.
It's not bad.
That's actually pretty good.
Pastry
that's
kettle
pretty
sour, brewed with blueberry, graham, and milk sugar.
5.6%.
Oh yeah.
The
do you
challenge
think?
is I got to find it on here.
Well,
so.
What'd you go with?
5.6. I'm normally wrong. That's pretty tasty.
I think you might be high.
You think so? You think I might be high?
I mean, your guess. Your guess.
Could be both.
4.8.
Apparently, it's probably not on. Did we have this problem last show where
Yeah, we
that
did have
particular
that. There were-
brewery did
yeah.
not have
Didn't have it on there.
the ABV?
I do not see it on here. This might be a.
have to look
we have
it
to pull
up
up
on-
Untapped.
Well,
or-
look,
Yeah.
if it's not labeled,
We'll
I'm
we'll
right.
have to look.
That's how this works.
We'll move on. We'll move on.
That's how it works. My
So-
5% guess is
Yeah.
correct.
Did you, Sean? Do
You
you
gonna
have a guess
say
anyway?
you say it's correct because you said
4.8.
it?
You had 4.8.
I said 5.6.
So 4.8, 5, 5.6. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I can't find it. So.
I thought he had found
The
it.
way
know.
you threw that in, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you found it. Well, they're bringing out
We'll
the
find it here
flashlight.
momentarily.
No, they're gonna go to Untapped
that's-
and
That's fine. So
We'll come back to that.
let's go backward just a little bit. How long has Transport been open?
So we opened February of 2019. So we are approaching third anniversary.
Nice.
Yeah. Which seems incredible. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, and yet it also seems like we've been doing this a very long time.
what do you got? Sean has an answer.
6.5.
Oh.
We're all low.
Wow. It's like
Wow.
the Price is Right.
It doesn't.
Closest without going over. I guess you got it.
It does not drink like it.
No,
is.
it does not.
It's much lighter.
That's about all I could drink though. That little, because that's pretty sweet, and I don't mind sweet, but it's fine.
That's yummy. That's tasty.
So what was it like when you guys came to Shawnee, being the first brewery? Obviously, you kind of have to explain. You know, I work in city government. You have to go explain what the hell you're doing, that you're not a bar, and you're a brewery. What was that like? What was that process like?
It was great actually. It started off well from the beginning. As we look across the street here, we're looking right at City Hall.
Well, true.
And I mean, from the beginning, we got can you guys run lines under the street here to our offices? So we figured we were in pretty good shape starting off that way. Luckily, I mean, there weren't that many at the time, but I think a lot of, and especially the chamber was involved right from the beginning here, and they helped us quite a bit in that regard. But a lot of them had been to other places, other towns. You know, they're
Right.
seeing economic development in the old downtowns, and they know that
What
breweries in old downtowns
Yeah.
are a big part of revitalization. So they were excited to have us here. They wanted to help us out as much as they could right off the bat. So if you had been down here, I mean, they'll tell you themselves that there really was nothing in downtown Shawnee
Right.
when we got started, and so it was a little bit of leap of faith on our part. But we knew, the Aztec Theater here next door that had been closed basically since I was born 47 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Just reopened last year. That's having that next door. You mentioned Service down the street.
Yeah.
Came along not but a few months after us, and now have drastic measures.
Right.
And others coming. So. It's really cool to be at the beginning of that and feel like you made the right choice.
Yeah.
And other people are coming on after too.
So
was the traffic what you expected? Am I stealing your question again?
No, it's a different. I have a totally different question.
Oh.
So yeah,
It's
I
a
mean,
ridiculous question.
we did a fair bit of research and we knew traffic counts, right? But this was really a getting from
Pass through.
I-35
Yeah.
home,
Right.
And it was just traffic passing through and nobody stopping. So we knew there was people coming through. Whether they would stop, we didn't know, right? So we were kind of relying on friends and family and hoping that would be enough to get us started. But it is a very a neighborhood feel in this area. So one of the things about Shawnee is, unlike a lot of the other suburban communities out here, it was a freestanding community that the suburbs grew around versus it being, being something that came along after the fact. So there is a lot of people that have been here for, generations. And so Shawnee does have a lot of that community feel. And so they adopted us very quickly and we became the community bar here in the middle of old downtown.
Yeah. I mean,
Well done, sir.
as a customer at that point when you open, we had a soft opening with the homebrew clubs, and it was busy then, obviously. And then a couple of days later, they opened properly to the public. I didn't come for a couple of weeks because I just couldn't get in. It was just so busy.
Yeah.
So that was great to see.
So I'm guessing the neighborhood people are like, "Oh, we got a brewery." You know, that seems to be the theme we get no matter where we go. Even like Lost Evenings,
Right, who
which
you
is
wouldn't
in kind
expect.
of a weird area. You know, they've got regulars. They got people who frequent there. You know, same way. Pathlight, same way.
Yep.
You know, it's interesting what breweries do. I mean, you think about like a place like even more off the beaten path is like Diametric in that cul-de-sac by the Chipotle. You have to be going there. You can't pass it and see it, right?
Yep.
You know?
There's no signage.
No, you can't see it. I mean, you can kind of see it if you know what you're looking for, but it's an interesting dynamic when you put a brewery in some place and what happens. People,
Tony, a wind shift.
Yeah, same way. People
And
find their beer.
Limitless is another one. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Especially that damn. We went over there. I'm like, is there a brewery over here? What the hell? So I guess the neighbors have been pretty happy.
They have, yeah. One of the things we didn't start with but added last year in the pandemic was our mug club, right? And so we had, I think, 142, somewhere in that range, people that signed up.
Wow.
And at renewal time for this year, all but 2 renewed, and those 2 had left the area, right? So those people, we know we've got at least 140 diehards,
Loyal
and we
employees.
added another
Yeah.
60-some this year, so we're over 200 people.
Wow.
And so we know they're coming in all the
fantastic.
time. So we feel like, those are those are the regulars, and if we've got 200 regulars, we're in pretty good shape.
That's a great number of people to have.
Especially when you can only fit 86 people in here legally
That's
anyway.
why there's a garage door.
Yes.
So Sean, when you came aboard, obviously, you know, you have the British styles and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Obviously, it's not all British styles here. Was there a learning curve or a shift to say, okay, I can brew these, but you guys want to do these? How did that work for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest learning curve was just doing it on a commercial scale. You know, from a home brewer, the equipment we have here is actually similar to homebrew equipment, but it's just so much bigger.
Yeah.
But I'd never made kettle sours. I'd never made Belgian style beers. I drank a fair amount, but I just never wanted to make them. And I think at that point I'd made a couple of lagers because ales were obviously so much easier. So yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve. Although the processes that you go through in the brewery are not that different.
Right.
But just learning the new flavors and the complexities of different recipes was a bit of a learning curve. Yeah.
But on the flip side, what he's brought has been really cool too, right? So, I mean, we had done, I think, one English style beer before.
Right.
And Sean's very into historical style beers too. So he's like, hey, I've got this, I read about this one and I got this recipe, and what do you think? Should we try it? And great, sounds cool. Let's give that a shot. And we talked a little bit about casks and the variety of cask ales that you have in England now. And Sean's decided he'll try just about anything in a cask here. So we're
last
maybe
week
not
we
this
did
pastry blueberry sour, but
No,
some of the
maybe
rest
not.
of those.
I got a little bit of that before Nigel got here, kind of
Yeah.
offline. I guess so you're gonna have to tell Nigel about your casking project.
Yeah, so anytime we make an ale that I think may work well as a cask beer, I'll fill some casks, and once a month we have a cask on Friday night or a Saturday, depending. A week ago we did a New England IPA. I'd been really scared about doing a New England IPA because I figured it would oxidize.
Yeah.
I was actually watching a YouTube video about some guys back in the UK, Dark Star Brewery. They're out of Brighton. In fact, they're owned by Fuller's, I think, these days. But they actually showed a New England IPA, and I'm like, well, if these guys are doing it on a huge scale, it obviously is okay to do it from a technical point of view. And so we gave it a go on one of our regular New Englands, and it worked really well. So yeah, I'll do anything. We got a
So what was it like? I mean, how would you describe it?
so the
Compared to like a normally brewed. New
so
England?
obviously it's a little bit warmer and a little bit less carbonated. So there was a lot more aroma because of the slightly higher temperature.
Right.
And the mouthfeel was a lot more silky because you had a lot less carbonation.
Yeah.
And it actually works really well with that hazy IPA. The whole sort of softness that
kinda
you're looking
that
for anyway.
fruitiness, yeah.
And particularly the mouthfeel.
Yeah.
It works really well. So it's good. But yeah, we'll do stouts. We'll do. I'm going to do a blonde ale. We do ESBs. We do brown ales. All sorts. IPAs,
Yeah.
anything really.
Is there something? Is there a
there one you
particular
won't
style?
try?
There's something you won't try. Maybe one of these.
Are you going to do a fruited
So-
pastry stout?
So we did a Oktoberfest a year or so ago, just after lockdown, and we had a really successful weekend. And I have a 4 beer engine bar basically that I built. I bought 4 beer engines and refurbished them and built them on this contraption that you can wheel around.
That sounds amazing.
And so I
I feel like he needs to be invited to the next party.
So we think, well, what can we put on this? It's an Oktoberfest. So
Yeah.
I put on an 1850 recipe East India Company porter, because obviously that's German. But also, we'd made a Kolsch, an alt beer, and something else. Anyway, so we did a cask conditioned alt beer. We did a cask conditioned Kolsch. Though anything that's like ale.
Yeah.
I've made a lager once, cask conditioned that. There's actually a brewery out of Scotland called Harvesttoon, and they do a beer called Scahallion, which is a cask conditioned lager. So I've done a cask conditioned lager as a homebrew, but I'm not thinking like a Goza or a Berliner Weiss or something would work really well. But it may do.
Yeah, I did see a cask goes in London, so
yeah, it may do.
So I think it's doable. What's it been like from the customer's point of view when they try these beers?
Everybody seems to really enjoy it.
Because obviously it's different from anything
Yeah.
else in town, obviously.
And generally, we just do 5 gallons at a time.
Right.
We do have a firkin as well. So if it's something we know that sells well, we'll do a firkin.
Right.
And that'll probably last a couple of days. But it's not the end of the world if people don't like it if you've only done 5 gallons. But generally, the feedback's positive. And
I don't think a lot of people have had cask beers. It's not.
That's fair.
I don't know if nobody else is doing it around here, but it's not common for sure.
No,
right?
it's
and so people
normally
come in and they see this contraption on
Yeah.
the bar, and they're like, "Well,
It's
that
a-
seems
it's-
interesting. I want to try that."
It's
And-
definitely a special occasion for, if you see it at another brewery, it's
Yep.
not something that's...
especially if we can get them to try both, right? Like, here's the same beer, try it
Yeah.
this way, and they're stunned by how different the
Yeah,
experience is
that's-
between the two serving
yeah.
styles.
It's almost like sticking a beer on nitro, It's,
Right.
It's totally different than what you would...
I feel like craft beer drinkers too. They want to try something new, right? It's not the Bud Light guy who only wants the Bud Light. It's craft beer drinkers like, oh sure, let's try that new thing.
yeah,
Let's see what
especially if
happens.
it's got some toy associated.
Yeah,
with it, right?
exactly.
I mean,
I mean, just be honest. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't want a toy?
Who doesn't love to see a firkin, man? Just, one of the first experiences I had with a firkin, I was at beer station, and they were going to crack it open, and it didn't go well. and
they
hit it,
make a production
and
out of it,
fucking
too.
Shot out the side.
Yep.
I was like,
Whoops.
some guy got sprayed. It was awesome. It was good beer though. When I remember,
Were you rolling video?
I was not. I
And
was
that
not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
part of that, spraying everywhere is part of the problem in that people don't know that you've got to vent it first and get the get the conditioning right and stuff. And then when you do eventually tap it, it's not a bomb waiting to go off because you've already vented it. And
Yeah, we had that happen last, at Windshift. Tony he took one of those beers and put it in a firkin and was fooling around with the bung, and something happened and it fucking popped off and it shot us.
Like a fountain,
Oh, dude, and it was a stout.
a firkin fountain.
It was a fucking firkin fountain.
By the way, beer name.
That's what popped into my head too. Actually,
An effing firkin fountain. We have to look that up, see if that one's taken.
yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, when Parkville was just before the COVID Parkville that was cancelled,
Yeah.
I actually had just got this 4-engine thing, but only 2 of the pumps were working at that point. But I went along with the Johnson County Brewing Society and set this thing up, and I pulled the car up. I'm pulling this out the back of the car, and there's people like, "Oh my God, what's this?" And then I pull out. So I did a clone of Brewdog's Punk IPA. No, actually Elvis Juice. So it's the pineapple. No, it's grapefruit orange IPA. And also I did a Ruby Mild, which we actually did here as a scale up. So it was a clone of a thing called Sarah Hughes Ruby Mild out of Birmingham in England, which is a historical recipe, pre-World War I mild. Comes in at about 6%. Because milds back then were strong.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have 2 casks of this, and I'm hauling these casks out of the car, and word gets around, and and there's like an hour between setup before they let the public in.
Right.
All the brewers were over by my beer engine. Like, hey, what's this stuff? It's like, yeah, everyone was super excited about it.
So when it comes to like the recipes, like the historic recipes compared to the things they're doing today, is there a big difference in ingredients?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the hops weren't available back then, so it's all Fuggle or Goldings, things like that.
Right.
There's been a couple that were hops I'd never heard of too. That we've had to kind of source and find for some of those too.
Yeah, all English hops as well, obviously. Yeah, but a lot of the recipes themselves, grain-wise, are actually pretty basic because they didn't have the variety of malts. And I've made a 1855 recipe for an IPA. So it was one of the original IPAs, and it's just a smash beer. It's just these days you use Maris Otter. They would have used Chevalier or something in the past. And Goldings, that's it. But it's like 100 IBUs or something crazy.
Oh, really?
you just load these hops in. It's like 3 charges and a like massive amount of hops. So, and the beers taste different, but they're actually generally quite simple beers to make.
Just to keep people alive. That's what they were for, right?
Don't drink the water. Drink the beer.
Yeah, don't drink the water.
Are you able to get most of the things that you need? Did you have to figure out some substitutes?
I think some of it is approximations. I actually did one with Chevalier. You can get Chevalier malts, but they're not cheap.
Right.
So most times it's a modern approximation of what they think things were like.
Right.
Who knows what things were like in the mid 1800s? It's like
scary.
But I think that's probably the heyday of English beer. Until the First World War, beers were really strong. 7, 8, 9% beers were not unusual.
Right.
And then when the First World War came along, due to rationing and taxation and stuff, the brewers had to cut gravities, cut hopping rates, things like that, and then they never really came back again. So my idea was if you can recreate something from that mid 1800s period, that's the type of beer that was like the heyday of English beer.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say that was probably one of the heydays. I think right now, England beer, man, the beer scene, I had no idea. When I went in 2018, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be all cask beer. But then you go to, you get on Untapped, you think this place is a brewery. No, it's a bottle shop with, 150 different beers. One of my favorite stories, I've told it before, I was just knocking around London, and what I thought was a brewery, it was a bottle shop. It was called Kill the Cat. It was on Brick Lane. That's where Jack the Ripper did all his business, right? So I walk in there, and it's this tiny little place, not maybe the size of this, if people can't see that, but you know what I'm saying. So I go in there, their bar is about the length of this table, and it's a glass top, and in there are beers laid down, all Bourbon County stouts. I was like, went all the way to England to get some Bourbon County.
Might have been easier to get the Bourbon Counties in England.
Yeah, they're not as exclusive as they once were, but that's whatever. So what's the plans? I know you guys have some plans, man, for transport. Talk about that.
Yeah, we do have some plans. So we have a lease on another building down in Gardner. So I think it'll be Transport South. Oddly enough, it happens to sit right across from City Hall in Gardner too. So
I like this.
I like the everybody has a theme as they expand. I have not heard this one before.
I know,
but I really like it.
There is some symmetry there, so we hope it's a good sign.
Do you do specials when it's like the weekly city council meeting?
We actually here in Shawnee they meet on Mondays, and we weren't open for Mondays for a long time, and we got a lot of grief. Like you guys, these council meetings aren't always fun. You need to be open.
Then
we said, I don't know. Do you really want all the citizens coming in and drinking before they come over for meetings?
Look, just serve the reporters before they go in.
So it is in process. Not sure on the timeline yet, but we're there's some we want to have outdoor space. We want to kind of catch the things there that we don't have here, right? So how we lay that out, there's some other building options and areas adjacent to there we're trying to get laid out. We plan to do a bigger brew house there. One of our challenges here, Nick, when we walk around and back, is our cooler's too small, right? We could and should brew more here. We don't have anywhere to put the cold beer,
brewery
right?
problems.
Yeah. So
Although I would say they could give a lesson on maximizing space. Whoever did that was great at Tetris.
we were crammed in back there.
Because that whole brew system is...
How big's the system?
So it's a dual 3-barrel system, so
Okay,
we can do
gotcha.
6 at a time,
Gotcha.
basically. We're planning to do 10 at the other location.
in the space of like 4-barrel.
Yeah. And we have 3 6-barrel tanks and 2 3-barrel tanks.
Yeah.
So.
That is small.
Yeah. So we plan the cooler to be 4 times the size it is here. So
That's a good plan.
we don't want to have that problem again, right? We plan to have food there in-house. Another challenge here is just how do we handle that? We have food trucks here frequently. It slows down a little in the winter, but spring, summer, fall, we're generally 5 days a week with trucks. But it's hard to coordinate, schedule those. They have their own challenges, so that can be a problem. So we're going to try to do that internally there as well too. So kind of catching the things we don't have there. Should be, we want it to have the same sort of vibe, but it'll be a different experience.
Yeah.
It's a different location, different demographics down there. So
you're thinking next year sometime?
that's the plan. Yeah, we're
Okay.
hope sometime in spring. That's what we are expecting at this point.
Cool. Sean, you want to open the next mystery beer?
Sure.
There you go. That got brought to me the other day.
Having brewed this beer, I have a pretty good guess
Yeah,
what
I've
the
brewed this.
ABV might be on this one.
You know, they're range though.
It is, yeah.
You
Everybody
know,
did them different.
They range.
We did the recipe strictly as it was sent out.
So this beer is Black is Beautiful, which is a base beer that was put out originally for awareness of Black Lives Matter or
Social justice causes.
social
that sort of
justice.
things.
Black people within the craft beer community, and people are allowed to then add their own spin on this.
Yeah.
This is from Gotahold Brewing,
Eureka
out
Springs,
of
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Okay.
Yeah, Eureka Springs. Really, really good brewery.
Really cool
so,
people.
So somebody brought me that beer. So apparently they did it when everybody else was doing it, but it was so popular down there that they just redid it again, and they were just voted best new brewery in Arkansas.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
And they're the couple that owns it. Really, one of the greatest outdoor spaces I've ever seen for a brewery. I mean, Adirondack chairs, a stage, fire pits. It's like an acre and a half of a yard. It's pretty badass. Right off the highway.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, they do some really, really good beers. So somebody, that's some beer. That's a beer karma beer. You know, when somebody brings you a beer that you don't know you're getting, that's beer karma.
Thank you, friend of the show.
So what do we do?
And one-time guest.
I was like, why did I only get
John
one sip?
Bedoin.
Oh, that was John Bedoin. Shout out John Bedoin.
We're just washing out the
Oh, okay.
the blueberry sour.
I was trying to figure out why you're being so stingy with that pour.
He's like, I'm going to keep this for myself. You guys get a swallow.
We only have 4 glasses, and I put my blueberry sour to one side and realized that I had to chug it to get this one.
I was wondering what you were going to do over there. I was like, well, he's teetotaling over there. We got another beer incoming. You got to chug it.
And by the way, this is 2 of at least 3.
Yeah, we always
Okay.
have 3 mystery beers. So
Okay.
don't
I
be
don't,
afraid.
I don't mind chugging this one.
So, Sean, do you have a particular style you like to brew? Or you,
Probably ESB or mild or
okay.
anything British really, because they're all
You know what? Good man.
they're all but they're all basically the same beer. You know? It's like
But, you know, when they're done well, you know, like Tony Winship does, you
Yeah.
know, he does an English mild. Not everybody's doing that sort of beer, you know? So it's nice to have, you know, a lower ABV beer, but has, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to, trust me, I'll drink a stout all day.
yeah.
But, you know, if I'm working at Diametric, I can't drink their Imperial Milk Stout 14.6%.
Well,
know
you
what I'm saying?
can.
I mean, I
So-
can.
So we can't make real low gravity beers in Kansas. We actually are restricted on the minimum we're allowed to make, which is some wacky
Really?
rule. Yeah.
I have never.
So
heard that.
no
What-
idea.
So
What
we,
is- what
we
is
have
that
to
about?
make beer that's 3.2 by weight, which is actually 4 ABV.
That sounds like some Oklahoma bullshit.
Yeah, so whenever we make a bitter, it's going to have to be at least 4%. So it's really an ESB or a higher.
Were they afraid you're going to give it to children? What the hell?
I mean, you got to remember this is where Carrie Nation got her start.
That
Yeah.
is true.
Prohibition was repealed in the U.S. in 21. It wasn't repealed in Kansas for 27 more years. So we know our restrictions and prohibitions here in Kansas.
Good old prohibition.
Every state has their own weird laws when it comes to breweries. They're all antiquated.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
they're all in dire need of being revisited.
the whole thing that you guys dealt with here in Kansas, the whole food thing. I mean, what the hell?
Well, look, it hasn't.
And that was
hasn't been that long
county
that
by
you get to sell
county
on
as
Sundays.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in our lifetime. Selling
Yeah.
beer on Sundays in Kansas.
No, in
Yeah.
Missouri too.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 90s when I lived in Kansas City in the 90s, you couldn't buy beer on Sundays. You had to go to a package store.
Yep. And you
And-
couldn't
and-
buy it with a credit card.
Right.
Can you believe that now? Like,
had to be cash.
You couldn't. Yeah. You couldn't buy it with a credit
Boy,
card.
that's some of the mafia shit we're going on back right there. Man. No, we would go. The only place because I lived right off of State Line in the 90s, and Sundays, where can you buy beer? So there was a place on Truce or Prospect that you can go buy a 12-pack, but it would be like $30. But you had no choice. So if you didn't buy your shit Saturday night, you were screwed.
That's like the liquor stores on the edge of the county lines in Arkansas because every other county is dry, right?
yeah.
So you've got these liquor stores right on the county line, and you are paying for it.
Yep.
Or you can join the Elks clubs throughout the state. I'm not saying anything
So
about what I did.
does Sean let you brew it all?
Yeah, Sean lets me brew occasionally. My favorite styles are,
There's that word again.
occasionally. My favorite styles are the ones Sean comes up with too, because just from the the ultimate laziness perspective, right? It's you're milling two kinds of grain. It takes a lot less effort to weigh out
Yeah.
different. You're only doing those. You're
There's
doing
no step mashing. It's
Yeah,
just
you're
like
not
a
doing step
single
mashes.
temperature.
It's not an IPA. We're not trying to chill it down before we add Whirlpool hops, and
You're like,
we're not straining all that stuff out. Like
Easy button.
those are you're like, man, that was a lot of work. And then by the time you get it out of the tank, you're like, man, I had 27% loss out of that beer. Man, how did that go? So yeah, the English beers are like, okay, this is a lot less physical work to
Yeah,
do when you're
yeah.
brewing those.
See, that's what I like.
Well,
Less physical
Exactly.
work.
So did you happen to see the ABV on that beer? But we didn't guess.
I didn't look, actually. It's all very
What are you
dark,
going
and I didn't bring my glasses.
Yeah, well, that's a problem of our show. We don't bring readers enough. Yeah, see, old guy.
Oh, yeah, I
But
see it now, yeah.
I'm gonna say 9.8%.
I was gonna go a little. I was gonna go 8.5.
9.4.
It's actually 9 dead.
Oh, okay.
Woo!
So we're all kind of over.
We're all out.
A little bit over.
It's a nice beer though.
Yeah.
It's a very nice beer. Well done, Gotahold.
Well, the Price is Right. I win. I said 8.5.
Because he was still under.
Yeah.
Closest without going over.
Closest without going over.
The rule
I don't know what the rules are, so.
Well, the rule we came up with last week.
Well, by the
was-
way, we've had that discussion before, so thank you for being on my side.
Oh, okay.
no, the rule we came up
Come
with
on
last
down.
week. Whoever was close last time had to drink the rest of the beer. Was that the
That's
price?
right. If you won, the rest of the beer is yours.
Deal.
He's like, deal.
Oh, that one's empty.
Little shorter pours next time.
He didn't hesitate at all.
No,
by,
he-
by
he
the way,
went and grabbed
Jason
it
said,
and
"Oh,
just-
that's mine."
This
Yeah,
is a great beer.
I really like this beer.
That was. Thank
Please
you,
and
sir. May
thank
I have
you.
another?
Yeah.
We've done this twice, so I think we should do it again.
No, I think we will. We did the Things We Don't Say IPA last year. That was
Yeah.
the mental health awareness
Yeah.
one, and that's that's in the tank now, right? Does
Yep.
that sound right?
Yeah, it'll
So
be
we're doing that
tanked
one
out
again.
soon.
It was a really cool hazy IPA, but this one I'm a stout guy, so I'm
Oh, are
looking
ya?
forward to bringing this one back too.
It's
Yeah.
always
really
stout
cool.
season.
We actually
Yeah.
try and do some sort of charity-based beers when we can.
Yeah.
And I got contacted by organization called CASA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
That's a great
court
organization.
advocate thing. And they said, would you be willing to donate some beer for a charity auction event we're doing? And when I looked at who else was in there, it was, Boulevard and Martin City and all these places. I said, well, we can't really compete with these guys and give you like 100 cans or whatever.
Right.
But what we'll do is we'll do a prize for the silent auction. And so whoever wins the silent auction can come here and design a recipe with us,
Right.
and brew it. And then when we sell it, we'll put some of the proceeds from the beer back into the cask thing. And so it was actually won by somebody from Kansas City Beermeisters.
Oh, nice.
And luckily, he already had a recipe, because what I was hoping wasn't going to happen was somebody would come and go, I love craft beer, but I have no idea how to make a certain style, and then we'd have to.
Right.
But this guy just basically came in and went, "Here's a recipe.
Let's do this.
Let's do this." And the first thing he said was a black lager, but we'd just done the one with Vine Street, and so we said, "Oh, have you got anything else?" Because we don't want to put 2 black lagers, and in fact, we had a Schwarz beer on as well, so it would have been 3 back to back. And so that we're actually going to do a pre-prohibition lager.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's coming in middle of December, and that'll be on probably middle of January. So
how many taps do you guys have now?
Well, we have 12 taps. We do a Oktoberfest event each year, so we build those up, and we are still recovering from filling our tap lines from Oktoberfest. So we're struggling each day to, we want the beer to be done and be finished, but boy, it's like, are we ready to turn that one? Is that one ready to go? Because we need to fill that tap line back up.
Yeah,
brewer problems.
Yep.
We sell it faster than we can make it, which is a good problem.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have
from a profit point of view, but it's bad from we want to offer as many different choices as possible.
Yeah. So at the new spot, how many taps?
Undecided at this point, but probably fairly similar. I mean, the population there, it's sort of what this was before. It's an isolated community, so within 15 minutes of here, we're 125,000 people, and 15 minutes of there, we're a third of that.
Right.
So I don't know that we'll have the same more depth of variety there. Probably similar, maybe a little less. The nice thing is being able to move things back and forth. We'll probably do most of our core beers there on the big system, do more of the experimental stuff here, and then just shift them back and forth, but hopefully try to maintain pretty stable beers throughout. So it'll be at least 12 taps and probably pretty close to similar beers on it both.
How have you been thinking about the expansion, like going to a second location for a while, or is that something that just kind of a couple things went right and it just clicked, we should do it?
As a lot of people, we were dreaming big to start, right? So I think our original plan was, we'll start a 15-barrel brew house, and we'll have a tap room, and we'll be in distribution, and
it's only $15,000,
making all kinds of money, and it'll be great. And so, no, we were at a small scale, and that was, when we were starting, that was really about the same time that Tallgrass disappeared. They had kind of overexpanded, and their beers were fine, but their business just... They got in trouble trying to get into too many tap lines and, having a tap line and shelf space and all that. So we decided, no, clearly it's small and local, and then multiplying that if you want to grow. So we always thought we'd do a second one, potentially a third one, and then at that point, do we do a distribution model and then expand from there, build our market first, right? And then if we need to go out, we'll do it from there. So we'd always planned to have a second one. We didn't want to be too far away. I don't want to be driving 2 hours.
You don't want to go to Hutchinson?
Not Hutchinson, no. So I also don't want to have to deal with 2 states. So it's pretty much north-south, right? Yeah. So we weren't really going to go east. West, there's...
Why?
You get here and then you get to Lawrence, and Lawrence is, when we started, wasn't that big, but obviously they've grown and are more than Free State now. And
but even that, there's not many there's just a few breweries there.
There is.
For as big as that town is, there's definitely.
Never say never. It's home for me, so I wouldn't. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I grew up in Lawrence, so I certainly wouldn't mind having something there.
Yeah.
But we looked much further north, so several counties up, and that could end up being a way future plan, but we got to get number 2 done before we worry about 3 or 4 or 5. But I don't know. One of the cool places, when you're out in Seattle area, Seattle and Portland, McMenamins, right? And there's 500 McMenamins, and hey, if things go great, that'd be cool to have a local bar, but just have a local brewery bar, and you just have them in multiple places.
It's really not been really tapped here, if you will, because when we went to Pittsburgh, went to the beer festival in Pittsburgh, we were at this tap room. Was it 412?
Yeah.
And we're in the tap room, like, this is just a tap room. The brewery's like in another town. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool concept, But it was smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood.
It was really cool.
And just surrounded by residential. And so it used to be like a convenience store, but in Pennsylvania, that's kind of a known thing where you might have your brewery, but you have a couple other tap rooms in different parts of town. And, that's something that haven't really
Yeah.
you guys are getting into.
Martin City is probably the closest we have where they've got a few different places.
Right. And they're considered more of a restaurant anyway. I mean, the one at Mission Farms, I'm not going there to drink beer. I'm just not. The one in Lee Summit.
You're gonna drink beer.
I mean,
Let's, if anything, we're gonna be honest on this show.
okay, if I'm there, I'm going to drink beer and probably not eat food, right? but at least the one in Lee Summit, it looks like a bar.
Yes,
it's big enough. Where the one in Mission Farms, it's it's a bunch of
Well, we thought about that too. Is where do we still feel like people expect to go to a brewery and see the equipment. Like that still seems to be a thing. Like we want to know that it was brewed literally on these premises. Maybe in the future, depending on where it ends up, you get something where it's strictly a tap room. But I mean, we're still an emerging market as far as craft beer in the KC metro area, right?
Absolutely.
So
there's lots of
people
room
are
to
still
grow.
wanting that experience of this is an on-premise brewery. I'm seeing what's made right
cool,
here.
It's cool to see the shit.
Yeah.
But
We actually offer a tour of the brewery as an experience, and it takes all of like a minute to look around.
it reminds me of when I lived in New Orleans and I went to Abita. And, you go to, people think, it's in New Orleans. No, it's in Abita Springs. You have to go across Lake Pontchartrain, which is a field trip in itself. So we go to the Abita tour, and that tour lasted all of 9 minutes. But you get 30 minutes in their tap room, and they have every beer they have on tap. And it's not taster glasses, it's red Solo cups. And it's free. And you get the tour. There's this tank, and then they send you back out.
Is it your job then to make them pay for that decision?
No, they send you out because they got another tour coming in. They're like, you got 45 minutes, hang out in the beer garden. I was like, what? This is?
I had the same experience, and I tell people about that being my favorite brewery tour ever because they're like, if you're interested, come around here. There's going to be a video here.
Yeah.
If not, taps are open. Drink as much as you want, and we'll tell you when you have to leave.
Ridiculous.
This is fantastic. The
Okay.
problem is, for us, when we went, is then you kind of forget that you still have to get all the way back to New Orleans.
Across from
And
Lake
so
Pontchartrain.
you're just like gorging on all this free beer. And so my wife and I were there, and then we went and sat in the car for about an hour and a half and went, I guess we're just going to stay here for a little
Yeah.
while until somebody
Same.
feels good. Then we also hit a drive-through daiquiri bar on the way back. So,
I mean,
Well,
see,
as you will
did, you
in New
did
Orleans.
it correctly.
Exactly.
That's
So-
how you do New Orleans.
One of the famous English breweries is called Theakston's, and they do Theakston's Old Peculiar is their probably the most famous beer. But when I was going to school, you can drink at 18 in the UK.
Yeah.
And so as a senior, halfway through your senior year, it's legal to drink. And one of our teachers' wives worked at the Theakston's Brewery, they had an offshoot brewery in the town where my school was. And he stupidly said one night, would you, all you guys in the senior year, like to go on a brewery tour? And we're like, yeah. and so we went and looked around this brewery, and it was pretty cool. It was like probably an hour looking around. But then again, it was the free employees bar at the end. And we got probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we're kids. And it was a free bar for 2 hours, and everybody was so wasted. It was like crazy.
I will say the transport crew, they do employee appreciation correctly. So there was a Sunday, I was working at Diametric, and they called us, and they said, we're coming over. And so I'll preface this with saying, before you guys showed up in the limousine,
Yep.
we had a wedding party show up in another limousine before you guys, and they showed up, and they're like, you guys about to close? I'm like, not if you're here.
Yeah,
And
they were the last place that we went to.
Yeah, they showed up in this limousine.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? You ended up with the right crew.
We probably weren't looking too pretty at that point.
Oh, you guys were fine. You guys were fine.
I'm aware we were there, but that's about it.
Yeah,
Yes, that was the first time I met you.
yeah,
That was probably a year ago.
Yeah.
Close
I
close
think
to.
we-
Yeah, I mean, it was
We might have done it
middle
in
of middle of lockdown
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was middle of lockdown.
because we're all in this limo, and I'm thinking, oh my god, we're all gonna die. It's like,
Nick, you want to do the last mystery?
Should I do
beer?
this one? All right.
You're gonna like this one.
What do we got? Oh, sure. Give us the one that's hard to read. Look, collab.
They're all hard to read.
I know.
This is a barrel and flow collab.
It is.
Cajun Fire and is that Rhythm?
Let me
No,
see.
I can't see who that is. That logo. Cajun Fire from
New Orleans.
there we go.
I can't read that shit. Can you read
You're-
that?
and
Read
you've
that
got
logo?
glasses
Oh
on.
my God.
Those
I'm
don't
gonna
work.
blow
Those are,
Brooklyn.
those are strictly cosmetic.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn Brewing.
Oh, Brooklyn Brewing. Oh yeah. Garrett Oliver.
I'm blaming their lighting. Has nothing to do with my eyes or my glasses.
So what we got there, buddy?
Seed, stalk, and root. Something grain and molasses. Dark lager.
The dark lager.
Okay.
There we go.
Dark lager.
All right.
All right.
So that
We've
beer,
had our primer for that earlier, right?
There
We
you
had your
go.
dark lager already, so.
So that beer came from. We went to. There's a festival. It used to be called Fresh Fest. Now it's called Barrel and Flow, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They get a majority of the black breweries around the states to show up.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a black beer festival, but there's a lot of black people there, as Nick will tell you. So what they do, they did 30 different collabs. So it might be a home brewer and professional. It's just it's a bunch of different collabs. So I've been to the festival twice, and you end up just talking to a bunch of people and not drinking any beer. So Tavor had 15 of the collabs that you could order, because I knew I wasn't going to go there and drink and get to all the ones I got. So that came out of my Tavor stash.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's different.
Well, you know what that is? That's beer karma. You
It
guys are
is. It
experiencing.
is beer karma. It is.
I love how that smells.
You said molasses?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm.
Might be.
That's what it says. Molasses. Come on, open up those eyes.
It did say that, yeah.
Yes, no, it's the and molasses. I can't see the before the and
What's the
sign.
before?
It might be that. I brewed a homebrew with way too much black treacle one time, and a similar taste to that. Yeah.
You gonna get the flashlight out? You got that new fancy phone? Just take a picture.
There we go.
Can you read it? Yeah.
So,
I think we're gonna have to get an intern on this podcast.
Yeah, right, there we go.
Somebody with young eyes.
Flashlight.
The flashlight's not working. apparently.
Fonio grain and molasses.
What kind of grain?
Fonio? Fonio?
I've never heard of that.
yeah, that's
I know.
beyond
on,
me
you
too.
nerdy
I'm not familiar with
brewers.
that. Yeah.
Is that some?
Hey, there's always something new out there, right? So
Well, that is true.
Is that some like gluten-free grain or something?
All right. Are you guys ready? This one has the ABV on it.
Okay.
So I'm now going to
I'm
take
gonna-
your guesses.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
go-
I'm gonna go like 5.4.
6.0.
5, 4, 6, 0.
I was gonna go high too. Actually, I think 6 is probably pretty close. I'll go 6.2 and just slide in over Sean there.
Well, the actual retail ABV, 6.5.
Ooh.
Oh.
Man.
Oh, guess who gets to have another beer?
Wow.
Chug it.
I don't know about this rule, Nick.
Yeah, I liked it when it benefited me. But when it
That's
doesn't,
hilarious.
when it doesn't benefit me, I'm not as much of a fan. I want to jump backward just a little bit. You said when we were talking about the kind of the charity brews that you guys have done, you did one for mental health awareness. What was that one?
That was the Things We Don't Say IPA, TWDS IPA. So, it was kind of interesting with that one is we had one of our locals, our regular customers. They have a foundation for their son who had mental illness, committed suicide, and so we did a collaboration. As part of that, they came in and had a big party, and so part of the proceeds went to what we had committed to the Things We Don't Say, and then we did another donation to their organization as well, which is Carl's Cause. They have these like green painted rocks. They say things, like "You are loved" and some of those inspirational quotes on it, and they're like, "Take these and distribute these everywhere. We want to see them everywhere." And at that time, I had just confirmed a trip that I got back from a month ago, and so I just went to Tanzania and did Mount Kilimanjaro. So
Oh, wow.
I took one of those up there. So they're one of Carl Cause's green rocks is on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro
cool.
now.
That's
so,
awesome.
But yeah, we've done obviously the Black is Beautiful. We're doing the Casa one.
Yeah.
Was that a
I know.
planned thing to do these, or did it just kind of organically happen?
No, I think it was planned. So Mike and I are both have been in Rotary for a long time, so we're very involved in social causes and service projects. Terry's one of our other owners. She's actually a Rotarian as well. So we always expected to be involved. It's being part of the community. So we've always wanted to do those things. I don't know that we planned and knew exactly what would come up.
Right.
But it's neat to see. Especially when multiple breweries get involved,
Yeah.
it's great to like the Black is Beautiful and be able to try 25 different kinds.
Yeah,
and they did
yeah.
a really good job with the marketing. And so like that label, as soon as
Yeah,
you
you
pulled it
know
out,
it.
I was like, oh, cool. I knew
Yeah, you know
exactly what it
exactly what that
was,
is,
right?
yeah.
So those are great.
No, I think it was cool that you guys hooked up with Vine Street as well, because I think they have an opportunity to kind of introduce a whole different.
For sure.
They can change the customer
population that
base.
we're not reaching in
And
craft
actually,
beer
we
in
we
Kansas
didn't
City.
actually plan a collaboration with Vine Street. So we planned to, because Elliot's involved with the Homebrew Club, and
Right,
we'd
yeah,
invited
he is
Elliot
part
to
of
come
that,
in
yeah.
to do a beer with us.
Right.
And, Sean knows this better, but
Yeah,
why don't you say?
so Elliot came in to discuss just brewing a beer with us,
Right.
basically just as a individual.
Right.
And he said, so we get down, have a few glasses of beer, and we're so what sort of beer do you want to make? He's like, actually, I've got some pretty amazing news, and it was before they'd actually put out their press releases
Right,
and
right.
everything. And he said, so you gotta keep a cap on it for the moment, but I'm going to open a brewery with these other guys. And it's like, okay, well, we'll do a collaboration with you guys,
Yeah.
to get the name out there. And he's like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So so it wasn't planned really. It was more just coincidental.
Serendipitous.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But again, I think it's going to be good for the cause, because I know they're going to do some other collabs that I think they did one at Three Trails, what was it, Cream Ale, really nice beer. But again, them opening up, I mean, they're getting attention around the country, to be the first black-owned brewery in Missouri.
Like,
Crazy.
I don't
but
know that
true.
we
So
we
cool.
cannot understate the big deal that is.
No, I mean, when some of the folks we've had on our podcast that are a big deal are really shouting out Vine Street, that's huge. So I think they're going to be like when you first started coming here, you're like, hey, come back for like 3 weeks.
Oh, I think it's going to blow
It's going
up.
to be overrun. But
Yeah.
my hope is, it is going to introduce a whole another segment of the population of craft beer. But maybe we can take Bright 18th Street and fill in that gap.
I was talking with Kevin here last week
Because
when he was
there's
here.
not shit between the two.
People
right?
will go down and they'll go and spend a little bit of time at Nico League's museum, or they'll see 18 Vine, and then once they've done that, they leave.
Well,
there's no place to
well,
go
and look,
hang out. And now it has kind of that
It had-
all-time
yeah.
feel that you can be a part of.
Because you
doing
remember when
something,
Crossroads,
so-
there was nothing.
Well, and
Yeah.
there's been a lot of restaurants that have come and gone there. And look, I'm a baseball dork. The Negro Leagues Museum is amazing. I'm a jazz fan. The Jazz Museum is amazing. But I'm only going to go there so many times.
Right.
Right? And the restaurants haven't been huge draw yet. But you get a brewery down there, a brewery and a tap room. That's a neighborhood thing. You're going to get people there all of the time, and that's only going to help
And it really is gonna-
everything
it's-
else.
it's
and
gonna-
we've been
it's-
needing something like that in
it's
that
gonna
district to
be-
really drive the development.
And it's actually going to be a multi-business space, so they're
Yeah.
not going to be the only people in that building.
Exactly.
And there's going to be restaurants within the same building, and their model is they're not going to provide food, but you can bring food in from all these other places. It's
And
gonna
the
be real
timing is
cool.
great because there's so many exciting things happening at the Negro Leagues Museum right now. There's some big stuff getting ready to be announced and happening with the Jazz Museum. So the timing for that area is going to be perfect
and then
to
there's-
finally take some of the money that looks like us, right?
Yeah.
Across that barrier, across that street, and put some money over there.
Yeah, people
there's-
are intentionally looking for black-owned businesses to spend money at now, which
right.
is great.
And then there's
So-
talk about taking the trolley east, because what's the point in having it if it's not servicing whoever? It'd be like if the tube only went to certain places. What's the point?
It doesn't go to Brixton.
Exactly. But it does go to Brixton. So
Are we going to get a little British nerding out here?
let's do.
You know,
I've been to London
dude,
once, but
we'll just
I'm
lean
not
back and let
catching
them
the
talk.
Dude, don't be judging that Britishness, man.
So Brixton is an area of London that's predominantly black communities, black families, and historically was where the black people would have lived, and obviously there's places all over the U.S. that are very similar, but it was more run down historically and has culturally come up a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. It looks the same as when I was a kid. I mean, I went to my old house. It's exactly the same, but London is a very diverse place, and even there, I mean, there's that market in Brixton that we used to run around as kids. I mean, it's whatever you want is there. Whatever type food you want is there. Now, there's still a lot of Jamaicans there because that was my family. You know what I'm saying? There's still a lot of Jamaicans there, but it's super multicultural. And you come out of that tube station at Ipswich, at Brixton, and it's crazy. I mean, it's as busy as central London. It's a different vibe. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of beer there, which is awesome. That's where I found the dang Cask IPAs.
Yeah, which is just amazing. When I left England, you wouldn't have ever come across anything like that.
No. No.
When is the next Cask night at Transport?
So I think we're gonna actually have the red IPA that we have on tap at the moment. I've got a cask of that in the back, and I think it is Small Brewery Saturday. Is that like the day after Black Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's when we're gonna do.
In conjunction with Small Business Saturday is Small Brewery Saturday. I like it.
Something like
that.
So
go buy you some shit and drink some beer.
Look, shop small, drink small.
Well, come get some Cask Red IPA. I bet you won't get that anywhere else around here.
No.
Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you to do this on over the airwaves or whatever podcasting is.
I don't know where he's going with this. So I've got nothing.
You guys showed me when you were giving me the tour in the back. There were 3 barrels.
Yeah,
you're getting ready to do some barrels. Can we tell people what you're doing? Because one of those barrels is really super interesting, and I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, so we're doing our the stout we use as a base for our coffee stout, our Squire stout. That's one of our it's always stout season, so we have our coffee stout year round. So we'll do a stout in one of the bourbon barrels. I think we're doing, is it the ESB in the other bourbon barrel?
Oh,
what are we doing in the other one? That's one I can't remember.
We were going to do an ESB bourbon barrel age. That's certainly on the
Burton,
schedule.
Right? Or Gone for a Burton ESB.
We're going to do a French hopped saison in a bourbon barrel.
Wait for it.
But this bourbon barrel was previously used after being bourboned with gin. So it's like it's got this wacky mix of bourbon and gin, predominantly gin. So it's going to be like a gin barreled with a hint of bourbon.
Wow.
Saison.
Is this some Black Friday stuff?
So we haven't brewed yet. This will probably be for anniversary release in early February.
Probably February.
Okay.
All right.
February.
Hey, road trip.
And then is it?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's called a road trip when it's 20 minutes away, but whatever.
Thanks for coming back to Kansas for that.
Doppelbock?
Yeah.
In a red wine barrel.
Yes.
So before we wrap this up, I kind of want to know. You said you're a stout guy. Is that your go-to when you go to like a new brewery? Are you looking for stouts?
So I'm kind of a situational guy. Like, what am I in the mood for at that moment?
Occasional
right?
brewer,
and
situational drinker.
Situational drinker. I associate beers and flavors with events and times, right? So what have I got going on? Am I hitting 5 breweries? Well, then I'm probably hitting lagers and light ales and German beers and stuff.
He uses a lot of logic in his answers. I don't know if I approve of this.
I mean, this is not entirely true. I was in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago, and we went to Southern Tier at 11 in the morning, and I was like, barrel-aged stout. Had a flight of like 7 of those. So it's not always true. So in some cases,
situational, Nick.
Yeah, that was the situation. Was I was going to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'm going to get drunk. So let's hit the big beers. If it's So it depends on what I'm up to. If I'm at a soccer tournament out of town with my kid, I'm probably hitting it a little lighter.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
It depends. I don't know. Now I think I was in Wichita a couple weeks ago, and saw that I'd forgotten Tallgrass's recipes were back there, and I said, "Oh, buffalo sweat," which is really what I wanted to pattern our Our Squire Stout after was that beer, and it's like, okay, I ordered one, and then I hadn't even looked at the menu yet, and then I saw they had the vanilla bean one. And I was like, oh, well, bring me that one too, right? Like, just keep them coming. I want those. So I guess the answer is yes. I do look for stouts, but I'm a situational style guy, occasional brewer.
I want that on a business card.
The occasional brewer.
I might have to do that next time. At the moment, it's what's on my mug. Person of interest is my title on my business card, but now I think it's going to be situational style and occasional brewer.
Situational drinker,
Situational
brewer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sean, what about you? When you go to a brewery, what are you looking for?
I've turned into that asshole brewer that picks out the Czech Pilsner.
Hey,
You know,
that's when you know if you're dealing with a good brewery or not.
yeah,
they can do
exactly.
a Pilsner, right?
That's my go-to now.
Yeah.
If they've got a Pilsner
Yeah.
on, if not anything that maybe English style, but then I'm generally disappointed, which is a
Because
shame.
you're not getting English style everywhere, right?
Yeah, I'm not really that much of a picky guy. I'll just try most things. As long as it's not sour. It's not my
you're not a sour
I'm not
guy.
really a sour fan. I won't go to a sour.
I mean, we kind of tipped you on that
you
one
did.
there. Yeah,
I was
you
sort of
know.
forced into that.
I mean, full disclosure, the first episode we ever did.
Look, it's okay if you don't like sours.
He hated sours. Then he has some shit from service.
Episode 2.
I don't hate them, but if I'm paying my own money, I'll go for something else.
Fair. Second episode, he's a Courtney Service fanboy now.
But my favorite
really
part
is.
of that is when we went over there to service and we were talking to her, we find out she doesn't like the sours.
She brews them for her wife.
She makes them for her wife.
That's the only reason.
And what a great story. I want to make my wife smile.
Yeah, so I'm not a big
awesome
fan
is
either, so I go over there for the stouts because I like her stouts.
Look. I'm not saying the stats are bad. No way.
I need to go over there and get that pumpkin one. Have you had it?
I've not, no.
They just released it last weekend.
Yep.
Wait a minute. They just did a sweet potato thing.
Yeah.
No, I meant sweet potato. My
Yeah,
bad. Pumpkin, obviously, no.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Porter's probably one of my go-to beers, actually.
Like a porter?
Yeah.
Okay. We kind of had a fight last week on the show.
We might have had a little spat.
The two ladies because it was called an Imperial Porter. I'm like, isn't that a porter that just wants to be a stout? I'm just saying. That's what it seemed like to me.
But who'd you make mad with that?
Who?
You made our buddy Nolan mad.
Oh yeah, because the next day we were brewing.
The next day was brewing.
Sorry to disparage the porters, Nolan. Sorry, buddy.
There's a lot of crossover historically between a porter and a stout.
Absolutely.
And some breweries would actually just call it different depending on the market.
Yeah.
It's the same beer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to that.
I just like to, rile up people when it comes to that.
Nigel likes to be an asshole.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we appreciate you guys coming on. It's been a good conversation. I think we've learned some things about transport and the history and where you guys are going, and we learned a little bit about Sean that he doesn't like sours.
It's like he automatically gets excused for being English, right?
Well, and like a prime athlete, Jason has situational awareness.
The occasional brewer. I think you've already got a title for the episode.
Yeah, let's just hope I can remember it.
That is true.
We're not always great at remembering things the next day.
Write it down.
Maybe we should start doing that on the show. Maybe I have a notepad and take notes.
It's for your intern.
Because we come up with shit. Oh, that's the intern. The intern.
Yeah.
We're now taking applications for unpaid internships.
Hey, it's somebody will want to do it.
Well, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you guys
absolutely.
being here.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for having us out
glad we were
here.
able to get it rescheduled and have you guys out.
No,
So,
you guys
good to see
are
you.
doing great things. Love
Thank
the
you.
beer. We're gonna go drink some more, aren't we?
Absolutely.
I gotta have that. I've got to have that red.
Yeah,
'cause
that's good.
Because
And I
It's
saw
been
there
on
was
for
an
a while,
Imperial.
so there may not be too much left.
Oh, so
yeah.
let's go blow a keg, Nick.
There we go.
Good night, kids. Drive safely.
So long.
You've been listening to Beers with Nigel, a show about beer and other stuff, hosted by Nigel Woodbury and that other guy, Nick Parker. Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, providing bumper-to-bumper graphic design, promo products, and print services. Find them at direoil.com. Beers with Nigel is a proud member of the Fredcast Network and is available on all of your favorite podcast flavors. Find Beers with Nigel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and ask Alexa to play the Beers with Nigel podcast.